You know I'm right here on WG Sports Radio. Nick Durst joined once again by Joe Calabrese and Joe. There's a reason why the show is called You Know I'm Right, and that's because we are right a lot, and we'll get to our Money in the Bank recap soon because we were right all up and down that card, and there were some funny moments. But first, we got to welcome in our special guest here today, and that is Radio.com's very own Anthony Gallo. Anthony, welcome to the show.
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, just a little background on Anthony here. He works for Radio.com, and he used to work on the Taz show, so he'll be chiming in, of course, when we talk Money in the Bank. But we'll have to start with this, Joe. And the big news last week was that the NFL schedule came out. So, any games that immediately piqued your interest off the top? I was really surprised and happy to see that finally, for the first time in my lifetime, the Giants are opening in Dallas.
They're not. They're opening at home against the Steelers, right?
Yes.
And then they have two
Monday Night Football
games. They're at home against the Steelers and the 49ers. That's going to be two difficult games.
Yeah, the Giants have a rough early schedule. Like, I know it's tough to look at like the team schedules now and really know what you're talking about, but those two games are tough for the Giants with a young team to open up with.
If I looked at the Giants' schedule and I said maybe they win 4 games this year, I mean, I think I like Joe Judge. Joe Judge, the best judge in town, but I don't really think there's. I can't see them doing too well. What do you think, Joe?
It's going to be interesting because I do like Judge, and I think he said all the right things so far in the offseason. And I do think the Giants' defense has improved. I think the offensive line, it was also very improved, so that's going to help Saquon. That's going to help Daniel Jones. I don't know if they're as bad as people think. I definitely don't think they'll be good yet, but I could see 8-8. You know, I can't rule that out. I think they're going to be a lot of improvement this year.
So I know you love Jones, but I don't like Jones. He fumbles too much. And Anthony, to me, Jones is no Drew Lock. I think that should be stated right off the top.
To be honest, I don't hate, like, going into last year's draft. I wasn't a fan of Drew Lock, but I like Daniel Jones. Like, I think the fumbling thing we'll see changed. He's a rookie. Got to give him like some kind of leeway. And I agree. I don't think the Giants, I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but 7-8 wins wouldn't be outlandish. Like, if they got that, I wouldn't be like, whoa. Because they got killed for the Odell trade, but they also got 2 guys that might be starting on their team for a while in Peppers, and I forget what the offensive lineman's name was.
Zeitler.
That's why, like, with Zeitler, I'm like surprised that they went with the offensive linemen, the 2 offensive linemen in the early rounds, because Zeitler plays right tackle, and then I don't understand where he's going to be moving here with the draft picks. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
No, I just think that they had a good draft too. Like that you added 2. I mean, the guy they took, Andrew Thomas, is good. Like, he kind of dropped a little bit on people's mock drafts as it got closer, but he's a good lineman. And those SEC guys, that's the closest you're going to get to NFL football at that level. So I feel like he's going to be ready day one. McKinney's a great player. Like some people had him as a first-round pick. So
McKinney, we mentioned this on our show 2 weeks ago. He scares me because when I look at this pick, I think Landon Collins, who ended up being a pretty big bust with the Giants for the most part. And I just don't want to see that again. You know, everybody's so smitten with these Ohio State and Alabama secondary people, and you keep getting people like Eli Apple and Landon Collins all through the draft. And for some reason, Joe, it just I think these safeties and cornerbacks in the SEC and Big Ten are always overhyped.
There are plenty, though, that are good. Like I said, Denzel Ward, I mentioned on a previous podcast, has been good. Marshawn Lattimore was very good as a rookie. Not as good as a sophomore, but still pretty good player. I understand why you're a little bit worried. Mentioning Landon Collins, obviously Alabama safety. But Landon Collins, definitely more of a box safety, more of a linebacker type playing safety, as opposed to McKinney. McKinney's more of a Micah Fitzpatrick kind of player. He's pretty good in coverage, and he could also be rangy and spacey, and you can use him different ways in the offense. So, but yeah, and I totally understand why you're a little shaky. The Giants, unfortunately, had to draft Apple and had to draft Collins, and both of them are no longer with the team. And both players were not really that loved by the Giants fan base when they were here. So,
all right, switching gears here, Anthony, the Jets. What do you think of the Jets going into next season? I know you, as a Broncos fan, have strong admiration for Adam Gase.
Well, I think Adam Gase is a good football mind. He's a terrible head coach. I just don't know how you walk into a locker room everywhere you go and players immediately have friction with you. But I don't know how to feel about the Jets. I was high on them last year. They got really banged up early on, and they completely fell off the face of the earth. So I don't know what to expect from them. I thought they had a good, like they addressed some needs. I don't know how to feel about Becton. I didn't see him play much, and the drug testing doesn't really bother me.
Well, here's the thing about Becton. Joe over here said he has the potential to be a Hall of Famer. That's what his draft night analysis was. I think that's a little crazy.
I mean, I can't even, like I'm saying, I can't even speak to it. So you probably know better than I do.
Well, he was the biggest lineman of all the linemen who were clustered right there at like the top half of the draft. There was about 4 or 5 of them. Mikal Becton was the biggest of those guys, right? So in the sense, because of his size alone, he reminds you of somebody like an Orlando Pace or somebody like that, right? Or a Jonathan Ogden who played for the Ravens for 10 plus years and is in the Hall of Fame, right? But because he's got Hall of Fame potential, but he's also got Hall of Fame bust potential. I think of all the linemen, he's clearly the one who's got the highest ceiling and the lowest floor, right? So this could go either way.
Yeah, they also luck out by getting him where they got. If he doesn't turn out the same way, I think the criticism will be less harsh because they had to kind of take him there unless they were going to take a wide out.
Right.
So what do you think, Joe? 5 wins, 6 wins?
Yeah, their schedule is pretty tough. I think they have the AFC West, right, which is you're clustering the Chiefs in there, the Chargers, who have a pretty strong defense, even though we don't know who's going to play quarterback the most of the season. The Broncos, I think, are very good. I actually think the Broncos are going to contend and fight for a spot. And they also have not only the AFC West, they have the NFC West. So not only do you have a bunch of pretty good teams in that group of 8, but the Jets are also going to be traveling a lot. They're going to be traveling to LA twice this season to take on the Chargers and the Rams at 2 separate points in the season. So I feel, to be perfectly honest, I think 5-11 or 6-10, believe it or not, is actually what I expect. I think that's pretty close.
Anthony, I think the Broncos, I think it's time to move on from Elway real soon. What do you think?
Oh, man. See, if Locke is good, I really don't have a problem with Elway because he's been able to fill the roster, but there's a time where you can't go a decade with a guy and it's been 6 years since you made the playoffs. So I agree. And they're in an ownership flux, so it helps Elway a little bit where they're not really looking at him right now because they have to figure out who's taking over the organization because the Bolin family's in a mess. They're fighting over who gets to own the team. But he's done a really good job where he had those 2 years post-Peyton where he struggled to really put young players in positions to succeed. And including this year's draft, obviously with the see what they do, I've liked it. His last 2 drafts have been phenomenal. And he knows how to sign guys undrafted-wise. But it all rides on Drew Lock. He's probably got 2 years left if Drew Lock's not good.
See, here's when I started not liking Elway. When he did New York Met prospect Tim Tebow dirty. The way he handled that thing and sent him to the Jets to be a backup, to be the freaking work on the punt team, that killed his career, Anthony. And it still should be Tebow time. It's Tebow time all the time. And this guy is just out of the NFL. And I think Elway played a big hand in that.
Well, yes, but they gave him a 4th-round pick. He probably would have went to the Patriots if the Jets didn't throw a 4th-round pick at him.
Should have traded him to the Jaguars or something. Give the guy a chance to start.
Hey, I'm a Florida guy, so I love Tebow. And that 1 year he was with Denver is one of my favorite sports seasons of any the sports teams I root for.
It's amazing.
Tebow had to, not to be biblical, but he had to sacrifice himself in order for the Broncos to win a Super Bowl. It's basically what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Tebow, and what more could you ask from him as a Broncos fan? He gets into the playoffs, right? Wins the game versus Steelers.
More playoff wins than Cutler.
Yeah, and speaking of Cutler, I mean, we've been tracking this story. I got to get your take here on Jay Cutler and Kristen Cavallari's divorce here. I think Cavallari's comments have really just united Broncos and Bears fans in supporting their quarterback, who they really didn't support during his playing days. What do you think?
You're right. I was a Cutler guy when he was here. I still don't forgive Josh McDaniels for trying to trade him for Matt Castle. But I don't really know too much about the relationship, but it sounds like they had a bad vacation and they came back, and maybe she realized what some NFL teams were realizing in their personal life. I didn't follow it too much, but I also think that he doesn't look very good. I'm a chubby guy, and for me to think that somebody else is chubby is not a good sign for a professional athlete.
Speaking of Cutler with the Broncos, of course you have Cutler to Brandon Marshall was quite a combination. And Joe, we discussed this in a previous show about Monday Night Football announcers, but how about Brandon Marshall? I think this guy's could be the future number one guy here in the broadcast agents in field, and he doesn't really get his chance. He's really great on the Inside the NFL show. And also the other news about broadcasting is Eli not ruling out broadcasting, but he said, no, don't look for me to do anything football related until 2021. I know we mentioned Eli as a potential person in the booth as well, but what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I remember Marshall always used to be excellent doing WFAN spots, and he's very good on the Inside the NFL show. He's definitely got an electric personality. He reminds me a lot of Shannon Sharp. He's that same type of personality who comes across especially when he's on TV. So at some point, I think he may dip his toes into doing color, being a color analyst for games and stuff. I prefer him to be a studio analyst, kind of like how Kurt Warner and LaDainian Tomlinson and all the rest of the NFL guys are. I think that's the sweet spot for him. And I definitely think at some point, he may even start breaking out and doing some more regionalized radio stuff, maybe possibly for the Jets, maybe possibly in Denver with the Broncos. I definitely think it's a possibility.
Anthony, what would you like to see as the Monday Night Football booth with everything in flux right
now? Brandon Marshall's good. I don't know if he should be in Monday Night, the booth, but I thought ESPN kind of messed up. Charles Davis is great in my opinion, and they let him go to CBS. I think you hear guys like Riddick. I didn't really hate Booger, but I also don't watch broadcasts like that. As a Met fan, when you watch a Mets broadcast, a lot of the times they're not really doing a cohesive, by the book broadcast. So I don't really care that much. I love Tony Romo. I think he's awesome, but I don't think ESPN's that much in trouble. Are you honestly not going to watch depending on who the broadcaster is?
No, but it's just interesting how everyone made such a big fuss last year. I would say you give McAfee a chance, maybe, but
I agree. I love McAfee.
But Charles Davis, yeah, that's a big thing. He's jumping ship to CBS, so that's another replacement. The number 2 broadcast booth with Kevin Burkhardt on Fox, Joe. That's another vacancy, and maybe they go back to Jay Cutler because originally it was going to be Burkhardt and Jay Cutler, and then Cutler came out of retirement to play for the Dolphins. If you remember that.
Yeah, imagine. I don't know if Cutler would have been great in the booth anyway. He seems like a pretty reserved kind of guy, and I don't know if that guy comes across well and transitions well to TV. Plus I think some of these networks lucked out. Look at Fox, right? So Greg Olson, during his time isn't with injury, he did a couple of games and he was doing some of the XFL games before. Unfortunately that didn't work out, But yeah, so it's so hit or miss because somebody like Greg Olson is a natural at it, and then other guys like Jason Witten, who was not well received at all when he did Monday Night Football. Just he didn't translate well, and who could predict that?
Right, and hopefully Alex Smith comes back, but I think he'd be actually a good analyst at some point down the road. But hopefully, that injury was gruesome. I watched the E60 on it, and that was scary stuff, but he's out there, he's working, he's trying to come back, and the Redskins they could use a quarterback when however you shape it, but there's other teams that could use a quarterback, and I gotta ask you this, Anthony, because you tweet about it quite often. Why is nobody interested in signing Cam Newton?
it blows my. I partially get it, but it blows my mind because he probably needs to sign as a backup, and the fact that he can't get a medical